What's up, guys, and welcome back for another solo mining episode, episode 21. Just going to be kind of changing gears a little bit for the next few episodes, since we've kind of covered everything in terms of starting with Adventure, getting to Omega, maintaining that Omega, and then I've tried to cover almost pretty much every ship for mining and kind of showcasing different ways to do things and different types of situations you can be in, which I think has been really good. It's been allowed me to I kind of broad stroke a lot of different methodologies and things, but I think I'm going to switch it up starting with this episode. And the first thing I think I'm going to do is we're going to be looking at just kind of different format. So I think my goal, because eventually what I want to do is I want to kind of start covering a lot of industry and manufacturing, but I think as a prelude to that, I think we're going to just start just using high-sec mining and just stockpiling a massive amount of materials. And the episodes, I'm hoping moving forward, we're just going to be sitting here doing sessions. I'm going to try to shoot for about hour-long episodes of just kind of real world mining and showing you. We'll be able to just watch, the mining process. We'll be tracking the ore that we've accumulated in the station hold and things like that. So it's I'm kind of switching a little bit more to long form and everything. So right now we are in high sec in a 0.9 in a Porpoise. I'm just running normal mining drone 2s. So I've just kind of started on this kind of corner of this random asteroid belt. So I'm going to be just kind of moving all the way. I'm going to be doing quite a bit of mining, hopefully. I don't know how much we'll get through in an hour, or probably won't, the footage probably won't be completely uncut, because I do like to take breaks, because I do work from home. So there are times where I'll just mine for 30 minutes, 30 minutes, and then dock up and go do something around the house and then come back. So the footage will be an hour, but we have this position bookmarked, and then we're just going to kind of keep working our way around. This bookmark will end up moving. So the next time we come out, so I'm pretty much going to be mining until everything is kind of out of range. I like to stay within 1,000 meters for these drones. So once these rocks go down, we'll come out of siege, and then I'll move a little bit further up, and then I'll basically replace that bookmark that we're on right now. So that is the goal. I think for this episode, our goal is just to kind of get as much of this belt kind of mined out as possible. I'm pretty sure I'm not running a survey scanner on this ship. This is essentially a tanked out Porpoise. So we're with our hardeners on. We're about 73,000 EHP. I'm running 2 large Tech 2 shield extenders, and then 2 multi-specs. If I do have problems with players and kind of PvP, I might switch these to EM, but we'll just kind of see. I'm running inert stab just to make aligning a little bit quicker, and then damage control Tech 2, and then I'm running 2 medium drone mining augmentors, 2 of those, and then 1 of the Tech 1 variants, and then obviously the compressor and the industrial core 2. And then essentially I have the fuel bay completely loaded with heavy water, the fleet hangar completely loaded with heavy water, and heavy water in my cargo hold. And then for drones, I'm running Vespas, 5 of them, 5 Hornets, even though we're not going to see any rats, and then just regular Tech 2 mining drones. The reason I don't do augments on this is just because it adds quite a bit of value to this fit, and it's just not something I'm really think is important. I've been mining out here for probably 10 minutes or so. Gotten about 1.4 million, as you can see. Normally I'm running an ultra wide and I just kind of render the video at a fixed 1920 by 1080. But for this, I kind of messed with my UI a little bit so you can kind of see the mining hold a little bit better, just to kind of like, because I was doing like a bunch of, post edit, appraisal, because I tend to like using appraisal for my estimated inventory value instead of like what's in game, because it's not accurate in most cases. But I feel like I'm trying to just kind of, since we're doing about hour-long episodes and moving forward, I'm just going to have the inventory kind of in view here so that, everybody can kind of see what's going on. So I'll be interested to see in an hour, we'll take all that compressed ore. I think we'll probably I'm probably still going to stage everything in Jita. I'm pretty sure. I'm not quite positive. I don't know if I want to kind of move around different systems, because we're not going to have Plag in the area I am right now. So eventually I want to try to push down where we can get some Plag and have a good variety of ore types. The Scordite's not doing us any favors as far as adding value, but it is what it is. I'm not running compressor. I'll compress everything once we actually get kind of close to filling up, which is kind of the strategy there. But we're just going to keep on mining. And then we'll essentially just go until we either run out of fuel or we run out of space with compressed ore, which would be a while. I'm pretty sure we could probably mine most of this belt before we actually run out of fuel. And so what happens here is I'll basically take fleet hangar fuel, and I'm just going to like, keep dragging it in here to the fuel bay, and eventually the fleet hangar will be completely empty. We might actually empty out the Porpoise hold first, since it's only like 1,500 units. So we keep on mining. So we'll I'll check back with you guys in a little bit, and we'll see kind of where we're all hanging out at. All right, let's talk about heavy water. And I know this is a big concern for a lot of people who want to siege or use the industrial core and things like that. But so when we started, we had the Porpoise completely full of heavy water, the fleet hangar, and the fuel bay. Now, we've already mined about 27, almost 28, or 2.7 to 2.8 million in ore, and we've used substantially less in value for heavy water. So you can see our fuel bay is still pretty much full. Fleet hangar we've used a little bit. The cargo hold for heavy water, it only holds like 1,500 units, so that went by pretty quick. But I would say we're probably less than a million in the heavy water we've already used to mine 2.8 million in ore. So as long as you've got like your drone skills, if you're drone mining, if you have your drone mining skills at a good level, we're talking like you want drone mining 5, you want drone interfacing 5, and you want your industrial command ship to level 5. As long as you have those things and you're getting the most out of your mining drones, you shouldn't have to worry about mining at a loss when it comes to heavy water. I just want to kind of put that out there. Heavy water is cheap enough that for what you're getting for it with the industrial core, it's almost always going to be worth it.
Asteroid is depleted.
Oh, look at that. We burnt another rock. So we've done about 34,000 or almost 35,000 cubic meters. I'm not going to compress until we get much closer. I don't know why. I mean, it doesn't really matter. I think for me, it's like OCD. Because if I compress all this now, that's going to give me another 5 stacks down here. And I don't know. I like to keep my inventory looking clean and everything. And obviously that inventory value is going to change once we compress it, if the compressed ore is worth more. But for our current goal right now of just stockpiling for industry and manufacturing, that value is only going to become important when we start building stuff. So we're like, that's kind of one of my big guilty pleasures with games like Eve, where you have a lot of things that you can stockpile. For instance, whenever I played like a Path of Exile, Just stockpiling, crafting or materials was, something I love doing. Or like in Diablo 3, just stacking materials. And for whatever reason, I don't know why, it's just like, and even in like Eve, I get a lot of enjoyment by just stockpiling huge amounts of materials. Not necessarily like ships or mods. That stuff kind of triggers me. But in terms of like just making huge stacks of compressed ore in my hold is, for whatever reason, pleasing to my brain. But anyway, we'll check back in when I get closer to doing my first compression. We'll probably do kind of like that kind of idea where I'll mine up to the point where I'm about ready to compress, and I'll tune back in and give you guys kind of an update to kind of keep the progress moving for the video. But we're slowly moving around the belt. We've moved once, and we won't have to move again for a little while. But that's why it's so great having this industrial core that's only 75 seconds. Getting ready to move is not like a huge waste or waiting period like it is with 150 on the Orca or 300 with the Rorqual. Also, another like kind of caveat in terms of making sure you don't mine into the negatives with the heavy water value. You want to make sure you have, let's go here to resource processing. You want to make sure you have your industrial reconfiguration maxed out. I'm still working on level 5 for this character, but this is going to give you a 20 unit reduction in heavy water consumption for every level. So that is going to help you immensely as well. So when we get that level 5, we'll even do better on our heavy water usage versus our mining value. And then to kind of also further explain why I hold off on compression, which also doesn't really matter, but we've already kind of used all the heavy water in our cargo hold, but 625 cubic meters is not going to be a whole lot. So what I'm doing is I'm just kind of slowly using up the heavy water that's in the fleet hold. And what's going to I'm going to end up doing is once I compress this, I'm going to take as much compressed ore as I can and put it here in the fleet hangar, and then some here in the cargo hold, just to kind of like utilize that space, because the goal is to either run out of heavy water completely, which causes us to come off grid, which would technically count as a mining session. But until that point, when we get to the point where we're just strictly in the fuel bay for our heavy water, I want to be returning back to station with the fleet hangar full of compressed ore and the cargo hold full of compressed ore. So I know we're not completely full right now, but I'm going to go ahead and actually compress all this so that we can kind of like start moving some of that stuff around. All right. So as you can see here, 455 now. So we're going to take all of this, do a little stacky stack, take all this, put it in there. So now all of our compressed ore, everything we've done to this point now fits in the cargo hold, which is pretty cool. And so the next compression cycle will cap all that off, and then we'll eventually just be doing the same thing for the fleet hold. So now it kind of cleans everything up nice and pretty here in the mining hold. And this will be a little bit difficult for you to, if you're like watching and you're trying to track like kind of value, it might be a little weird. I'll try to like kind of give you guys an update. Like if we go to the Porpoise now, see that compressed ore now is worth 5. It gained actually like almost 1 million in value from compressing, which doesn't mean a whole lot if we're processing it. Really, the value that we're going to be calculating is going to be based on the raw material. But right now we got 5 million in the cargo hold, about 75,000 in the mining hold. So we're moving right along. I should know too that if you're out here mining, regardless of where you're mining in New Eden, you should definitely have D-scan up. You can't see it because it's off screen, because I have a little bit of margin on both sides, but I have it up just in case you're wondering why this guy is out here mining without D-scan up. Also, I have another overview tab with like stations and stuff on it, and Play window, local, probe scanner, and stuff like that. That's kind of out of view as well. But yeah, you should definitely be still always, no matter where you're at, just always kind of maintain situational awareness the best you can. Once these two rocks here go down that are on this side of me, we'll move. And then my strategy is basically to move probably somewhere here. So we can actually hold down Q. We can actually probably go ahead and move actually. Hold down Q. We're going to select there. I can red the industrial core so that,
Is depleted.
because that one just went down. This one should be going down here pretty soon as well. So by the time that we come out of the core, we'll start moving over there. And then once we actually get in place, we will activate the industrial core again, which will allow us to be in range of kind of this little that little quadrant right there. And as we move, you'll just start seeing this arc get smaller and smaller. We do have a venture out here. He's been mining since I got here. He's chilling. But I figured I'd kind of show you this this process. Make sure you don't hit this rock. And also, I try to stay on the back side of the arc. I mean, really, it doesn't do a whole lot, but it's just kind of a nice strategy. Slowly moving. And then once we actually stop, I want to make sure I completely stop before I turn on the industrial core, because if I turn it on now, I'll just kind of keep moving for a while and I'll end up, somewhere I don't want to be. So we can actually hit control space and stop our ship right about there. I usually let my velocity get pretty low before I engage the industrial core, just because it essentially turns the engines off and doesn't allow us to come to a good stop. That's good enough. Industrial core back on, and then I'm going to remove this bookmark, and then I'm basically just going to add another one by the same name, and we're good to go. Bookmark is moved. We've moved the Porpoise. We've got industrial core back up. We'll go ahead and compress this. Dump what we can. We're still not full. A little bit more than this will be full. We're at 6.39. So almost 6.4 million. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, it's not really great. It's not really great for as long as we've been out here. Yeah, but the effort we're putting in right now to mine this, not a lot. And then our fit is like 250 million. So you can quickly see that we'll have a better idea when we're done with the session. We have the full value of kind of what we've done. But I'm telling you, a couple days of doing this kind of mining, you'll pay this ship off. So as long as nothing crazy happens, like, safety comes in and decides to take care of us. But in that case, we just go and buy another Porpoise, and we keep mining because we don't care, essentially. If you're starting off, if you're like a new miner and you're newly into the Porpoise and you're newly into like the kind of the drone mining thing like I'm doing, then you might not be as cavalier with the expense. But after a while, when you get shield skills up and you get a lot of like, experience
The asteroid
in the game and kind of in the environment that you operate in, and you'll feel a lot more confident in what you're doing. Another thing too is there's a lot of people in this system that are mining. There's a lot of mining going on. There's a lot of ventures. We've got some retrievers, a lot of mining drones. I see a procurer out there. So there's a lot of people. Like if there's people out there actually looking for targets, they'd be a lot better going after like a retriever or a procurer or even like a venture or whatever. So That's the other thing I'll say too is like if you're the only person mining in a system, yes, that's going to make you primary target for people who are explicitly hunting miners. So if you mine in a system where a lot of other people are mining, you kind of get you use the crowd as cover essentially, because if somebody comes in wanting to, grab miners, they have an entire D scan to pick from, and at that point it's just like if your number gets called, then yeah, that's unlucky. But at least you kind of have a little bit of a barrier as far as hiding in plain sight. But yes, I'm hoping that I know that drone mining with command ships is a really unpopular thing because of ISK per hour arguments or anything like that. My main goal and my big enjoyment for mining comes from just I've always loved drone mining in an Orca and a Porpoise and in a Rorqual. My goal for this series is to not sell you on the idea that drone mining is the end all be all best income you can make. More or less, my goal is to kind of hopefully share why I enjoy it. Not because it's the best thing for, income, but really I'm hoping to just kind of showcase why it's something that I like to do, even if it's not like the status quo or the meta, essentially. And it's fine. You don't have to agree with this form of mining. If you're explicitly out there to min max and get as much per hour, then yes, by all means, go and do what you got to do. But if as far as for me personally, the drone mining is just kind of where I find enjoyment, and that's important too. If you do any type of gameplay for a long amount of time and you're putting in a lot of hours doing a certain thing, you have to enjoy it to a certain degree, or else it turns into a job. It just turns into something that feels just unenjoyable to you. And I've been down the road of wanting to go max yield, max ISK per hour, and go meta with everything. And as well and good as that is, if it just ends up, if it's not enjoyable, it ends up just kind of sucking the life out of the fun of the game. And in my perspective, in terms of mining, what I'm doing right now is what I enjoy. The other thing I kind of want to address too is a lot of people think that most people who are mining like this, that's all they're doing. And obviously in this case, I'm recording a video and I'm, showing you guys the process. But if I wasn't recording a video, this character would be doing what it's doing right now. And I'd probably be on another character running, the Marauder, running the Golem in, Sanctums or Havens. In most cases, when you're mining like this, it's not the only thing you're doing. So you can't just objectively say, oh, well, that Porpoise, it's ISK per hour. That's all you're making in that block of time, which is almost never true, because while the Porpoise is out here mining at a certain amount ISK per hour, I don't know about anybody else, but at least for me, that Golem is going to be out there doing ratting, which during that same hour is going to be supplementing the income here. And the difference there is you could just run the Golem all the time and get that fixed amount of income from ratting. But why, if you can, why not also farm materials for manufacturing while you're already doing the ratting thing? And I think I've seen a lot of people in the comments who have kind of expressed this as well. These drone mining characters will end up just kind of hanging out and living on a separate monitor where you can kind of see what they're doing. You can keep, an eye on them, but they're just constantly going. They're just constantly going while you're doing whatever else. You could be doing faction warfare. You could be doing ratting. You could be mining in a fleet in a completely other part of the universe. So, and then also if you work from home and you're, doing your actual job and you have this character up on another computer or whatever doing mining, you're now effectively working your job and also getting materials, or getting ISK, even at a small amount, you're getting it at the same time. And that's kind of the appealing thing for me is it's like finding ways to have steady income, not necessarily the best income, but having steady income with very little like hands-on. And then you're gonna like start triggering people who are very very I guess, who are extremely mad that the fact that there's a lot of bots in the game. But like, there's a difference between like being a bot and being like a drone miner. It's very rarely completely AFK when you're doing something like this, but there is a bot problem in EVE Online, and you'll know bots when you see them. And these are character sets that are being ran by scripts, and they're being run by third-party software to basically automate all of those actions. And yes, I understand the people's distaste and dislike for the bot kind of ecosystem in EVE, and I 100% can get behind that. But you can't just like lump sum everybody that is pseudo AFK with drone mining, or even AFK with drone mining, because we're not running scripts. We're not running any sort of software that simulates mouse clicks or does any sort of macros. We're not doing any of that. We're still, for all intents and purposes, we're still monitoring that screen as a human. But I don't want to get on that soapbox. I'll digress, because I mean, you're always going to have people who are going to look at drone mining and be like, "Oh, you're a bot." Well, if that's what you believe, you're uneducated in the sense of what botting and what the problem actually is. It's third-party software, and basically these farms that are. I mean, I've seen it in nullsec. I've seen like orcas with like 15 to 20 retrievers and nullsec doing moon mining, all scripted, all using third-party software to handle all that. And yeah, that is a problem. But if you try to run an orca with 15 retrievers without scripts and actually doing it like a fleet mining, like a solo fleet mining situation, that would be it'd be a lot to maintain. And by that point, it's very, very much not AFK at all. Even when I'm actually out there just like with the orca and like a couple of hulks or whatever, it's still not AFK, because you're constantly emptying those ships out, or you're constantly kind of managing the whole operation. But I figured I'd kind of talk a little bit about that, because that's, in my experience, being someone who enjoys drone mining, I've had to have those conversations with people about being accused of being a bot, or a bot apparent, or whatever, bot adjacent. But yeah, strong feelings on that stuff. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter, right? It does. Like, I don't give a shit, because I'm not doing anything illegal in terms of the end user agreement. The people who are out there botting, yeah, they do have things to worry about, because they are in violation of a lot of the policies and stuff that CCP has put out. It doesn't mean that CCP enforces it, but at any one time, ban waves come through all the time, and that stuff goes as it goes. All right, let's check our fuel bay. Boom. We still are not out of fleet hangar space. Our fleet hangar heavy water. Go ahead and do compression. Boom, boom, boom. We'll drop a week. There's not a whole lot left to put in. All right, there you go. Porpoise's cargo hold is now full, and it's sitting at 6.8 million. The rest of this is going to go in the fleet hangar. We'll start stacking that in there, and that value is about almost 800,000 ISK. So kind of a keep going we'll probably get halfway through this belt probably before we run out of fuel, which it would be a good session. I would consider that a good mining session. All right, let's talk a little bit about drone assignment. I don't think that's anything I've talked about in the past. If not, if I have, I don't remember. So really the difference between like putting one drone per rock and putting all drones on one rock, the difference there is essentially, I don't know, ease of use. If you're in a situation where you're kind of doing something else while you're also mining on this character, putting all of the drones on separate rocks will allow you to not have to reassign your drones as much, because they're essentially splitting the workload. If you put all the drones on a single rock, they'll kill that rock much faster. And while it's easier just to kind of like go to the next rock, hit F, and they all go and mine it, it's all well and good. It really kind of depends on what your primary focus is. If you're primarily focusing on just what that character is doing and that's all you're doing, then you could potentially just kind of have every drone kind of mine the same rock and kind of clear that way. It might be a little bit easier because it is a little tedious to, you know, select rock and then go over here and hit the little mine button and stuff. But it kind of, when you get used to like the whole process, it isn't such a big deal for me. Even if I'm like not doing anything other than just kind of watching this character mine, I'll still put them all on a single rock, because then I can go in here while they're mining and I can work on ship fits for something else, or I can go in there and do, you know, project discovery, which another thing is, that's another thing I like doing, is project discovery while I'm mining. Because if you're Omega and you're doing project discovery, you can essentially earn 20 million on top of what you're mining as well, which I'm not even going to get into. I've done videos over project discovery, and a lot of people do not like it because it is tedious, but for me it's like supplemental income. And I've done a lot of project discovery in the past. I tried to at least get the Marshall BPC on all the characters I currently use, which is a 2 or 3 month kind of journey, but also extremely profitable. But yeah, I figured I'd just kind of touch a little bit on the methodology or the science behind drone assigning. And in most cases, putting one drone per rock is better, because it's just, because what happens is like if you put all the drones on one rock, once that rock dies, your per second M3 drops to literal 0 until you can reassign them to a new rock. Obviously that downtime is very minimal because you'll already have multiple rocks kind of targeted up and ready to go. But this feels a little bit better utilization of the workload, just spreading them out like that. Obviously, if you're doing like anything, like if you're doing any sort of like drone mining in nullsec where the rocks are substantially bigger, or if you're doing like moon mining and those rocks are substantially bigger than what this is, putting all the drones on one rock is perfectly fine, and in most cases better in those situations. What I'll probably end up doing here is, once these 4 rocks here die, if this rock is not dead, I'll probably put everybody on this rock, because it's kind of massive and I'm kind of like following this outer path of the arc. So I'll probably try to get this rock completely dead. It just really depends on how I feel, because at the end of the day, this rock here is not that much further away than this one, so I might just continue assigning individuals until the big one is out of the way. But I'll let this little, I'll let this run, this little like clip or scene run a little bit longer, so you can kind of see. Let's go and compress this stuff. Why not? Throw all this in the fleet hangar. Do a little stack. Update our heavy water. We still got plenty of heavy water here. We'll be out of heavy water here in the fleet hangar pretty soon. We still have a ways to go for mining. the value of our compressed ore in the fleet hangar is 3.2 million, and Porpoise 6.8. So we've done about 10 million or so at this point, which I'm perfectly happy with. My goal is to have a massive amount of compressed ore stockpiled, and we get there by coming out here and doing sessions like this. Now, what I did was I ended up, when I put this ship together, I ended up buying like 100,000 just straight up. I mean, I had the capital to do it, but I ended up buying like 100,000 heavy water. So, if you're able to do that, if you find good heavy water at a low price, you can buy in bulk. That's better than buying it as needed in most cases. But I figure what I'll do is when we get back to station, we kind of get everything into the item hold, and we kind of look at the compressed ore. 'Cause I'm only going to calculate compressed ore because normally I'll leave uncompressed ore, the residual ore. So for instance, if there's a lot of raw ore left over after we run out of heavy water and we can't compress it, I'll leave it in the Porpoise for the next session for it to get compressed, because I try not to stockpile anything that's not compressed, just because it makes it easier if I need to move it around to a engineering complex or whatever the case may be. But what I'll do is I'll take all the compressed ore that we have from this session, and then what I'll do is I will fill the Porpoise back up with heavy water, and we'll get the absolute value of all the heavy water we came out with at the beginning of this session. And then we'll take that cost, the heavy water cost for that, and the value of the compressed ore that we attained, and we'll objectively look at the actual profit over the cost of heavy water, because I know that's a big concern for a lot of people. Hard numbers are going to speak volumes as opposed to you just kind of taking my word for it. But the goal here with these long form sessions is to be as transparent as possible. Doesn't mean I'm always going to have nuggets of wisdom to say every second of the video, because a lot of what I'm trying to do is be as transparent as possible and showing the actual kind of real world expectancy for the process. And I'm going to just keep compressing as we get ore now. Oh no, that ore cannot go in the drone bay. Can't do it. I'll actually be interested to see what our value is. It's been a while since I've done porpoise mining, to be honest, and it's been a going out and intentionally burning all available heavy water. I haven't done that in a while, so it's going to be interesting to kind of see those numbers even for me. All right, drone assigned. Yeah, we're just going to keep going. We're going to keep going with a single drone on each rock. I do miss having a survey scanner, actually. Survey scanner is just one of those things that allows me to... I like to piddle. I like to mess with numbers and look at numbers. The survey scanner is really cool just to kind of run periodically to see which rocks are about to die, or it's a good way to actually get a total value of the asteroid belt as well. Which, unless you absolutely plan to take the entire belt, that information won't be that useful. Most asteroid belts in 1 or 0.9 security are going to be worth 80 plus million usually. So, and we're going to run this porpoise probably for a few episodes. I might upgrade to an orca. It depends. It really depends if you guys enjoy this kind of I don't know, mining vlog, long form kind of thing. If we kind of go into the orca, because with the orca we can 100% take the entire belt. Without even batting an eye, and we'll be able to carry a lot more heavy water, and everything will just scale really nicely. If I was carrying boost, I'd actually invite this dude to fleet and boost his venture, but I'm not. Also, you guys are probably wondering why I am in a fleet by myself. And the reason is because it's just kind of like a good habit to do. So, something that normally happens in Eve is, and this can happen in low sec, mostly in high sec, but so if somebody decides to just like invite all of local to a fleet, some people, if you accept it, then they will immediately just use the fleet window to warp to you and gank you. That way they don't have to actually spend a lot of time like really finding you. So it's really a good practice, and this goes for like ratting, or it really goes for like whatever you're doing in Eve. But being in a fleet, even if it's by yourself, means that if someone tries to use that kind of like tactic against you, they will essentially get the players already in a fleet pop-up box. And the other thing too is, in like nullsec, it kind of also sends a message of like, is this if this person's already in a fleet, that means that they probably have somebody. They could be bait. It could objectively mean that there might be something going on that they are not immediately aware of. So it does kind of act as a deterrent for the kind of the fleet gank tactic. Also, the for me the purple color on my overview is a lot more less jarring than the green, but that's just kind of a personal thing. I'm not a fan of the green color, and obviously you can change it, but just it's easier just to put all my guys in a fleet. Purple's a lot less stressful on the eyeballs. Got some mining drones. Adventures back. Yeah, he's probably made like 4 or 5 trips to empty since I've been out here, and I haven't left grid at all, which is why I do this, because you lose a lot of time actually warping on and off grid to empty mining barges and stuff like that. It's not that big of a deal, but I don't know. I just kind of like posting up and mining. It's kind of how I like to do things. If I had to estimate, we're probably gonna be looking at about 20, maybe a little bit more, about 20 million in compressed value when we get out of heavy water. That's the other thing too, is like if you're worried about heavy water value, you don't have to actually stop mining after you run out of heavy water.
Asteroid is depleted.
Especially if you're kind of actively compressing as you're going. If you run out of heavy water and you can't turn on the industrial core and you still have space for raw ore, you can keep going. So I've actually gone ahead and calculated what the value of the heavy water was we brought out with us, because I know that whenever I started, I bought 100,000 units. So in GDI I have 73,938 units left. So that means that we essentially came out with about 26,062. So if you run an appraisal on that, then the buy value is about 4.8. The sell value is about 5.5 at the time of recording this video. And we've already actually gotten that value. We were already positive for that value, and we haven't even actually used all 26,000 units of that heavy water either. We still have 10,000 left. So hopefully that clarifies any concern with heavy water costs versus actual mining income. So when we get back to the station, I'll still grab we'll see how we did as far as compressed ore. We'll throw all that. We got it emptied out of the Porpoise anyway. Get it in the item hold, and go ahead and see how we did. So we've got a ways to go. We can still have about we have 10,082 units of heavy water to go through before we run out of space. Go ahead and compress all this. Put that in the fleet hangar. So fleet hangar, we're at about basically 6 million. So we're looking at about 12, almost 12 to 13 million in compressed ore. So yeah, I'm still pretty confident that we'll do about 20 million by the time we run out. I probably won't fill up the rest of the Porpoise after we run out of heavy water. I'll probably run out of heavy water, and before that happens, I'll make sure everything is compressed, and then we'll head back and yeah, close out this session, and then get on with the day. Still moving quite along at a pretty decent pace. Got about 6,300 units of heavy water left over, so the goal now is just to kind of keep moving until we run out, or we're not going to run out of heavy water completely because it's 170 units per cycle, so we'll have a little bit left over. But for anybody who is curious, if you fill up the cargo and the fleet hangar and the fuel bay in the Porpoise with heavy water, that will get you roughly 191 minutes of sieging. So like an hour and a half and some change, which is nice to know and everything. And that's what I'm doing. I'm literally only coming off the industrial core long enough to kind of move. I have started to kind of focus down on some Beltspar and Pyro, but really I'm also just trying to get everything in the vicinity of this bookmark kind of out of the way. If I decide to do another session tonight or whatever, we can kind of continue kind of going on. And you can another thing too about mining like this is you can kind of set up in a system, and you can, over the course of several days, you can kind of set up your own bookmarks for different belts and stuff like that, because once server reset happens, all the belts will come back and all your bookmarks will be exactly where you had them the previous day. So you can sort of build like a network of bookmarks if you're operating in a single system for an extended amount of time. But also, I just decided to move everything into the fleet hangar so we don't have anything in the cargo hold. We're at 15 million in compressed ore right now, so it's going to be close. It's going to be close for sure. Maybe not exactly 20, but then again, we still have 6,100 units of heavy water to go through. But like I said, I'm not overly concerned about hitting a certain amount for this session. It's more just a curiosity at this point and more information for the viewers. I did leave grid. That's why I'm kind of like off kilter of my my bookmark. We had some destroyers kind of poking around and stuff. One it was a Comrant, but it came on grid and pretty much immediately left. It could have been, looking for belt rats, but I don't know why you look for belt rats in a 0.9 unless you don't know what's going on. But also, it's probably just kind of being nosy. So I came off grid just as a precaution to that. But really, other than that, this entire time I've been out here, I've had no real issue with anything, which is part of the course. That's usually how it goes. I don't necessarily get bothered too much doing this kind of thing, which is nice. Well, that's what's one of the big nice things about having only 75 seconds on the siege. You can kind of watch D-scan and watch local, kind of read the system. And another thing too is like if you see local jump up considerably in the amount of people that have just immediately come into system, that's usually a source to start checking D-scan and maybe coming off of the inertial core just to prepare for whatever the case may be. That's why I like to usually have local kind of a long window. so I can see every participant in local, so I can quickly see when when there's like a spike, what you would hear people say spike in local. It's a lot more apparent when you can already see everybody in there. We're kind of in peak time, honestly, right now. There's 36 people in local right now. It's gone up to close to like 50 at times. We haven't had any issues. There's been a lot of cosmic signatures being ran. There's just another benefit of having the probe launcher window up, because you can see like what cosmic signatures are up, what anomalies are up for ratting, and if you see a lot of like combat ships and things like that, but you also see those cosmic signatures and those combat anomalies getting cleared. It gives you a good idea that those combat ships are running that kind of stuff. If there's a bunch of combat ships in system and the probe launch window is literally not being cleared at all, then it's a good indication that there is PvP fleets kind of roaming around who aren't necessarily doing that PvE type stuff. All right. We've got a little more than about 9 minutes left of fuel. About 2,000-ish, about 2,100 units. Go ahead and I've been just kind of compressing as I've been going here, just so I don't forget and have a bunch that's not compressed. But as you can see, we're sitting at almost 19 million in compressed value. I think we will hit that 20, but and that's decent enough. Also, I'm already pre-aligned. That's something that I personally do. So I pre-align basically before I'm out of siege. That way, once I turn off the industrial core, my ship will already be kind of moving in the direction I want to go. Once we actually run out of fuel, or once we're to the point where we can't do another industrial core cycle, we'll essentially just suck in drones and make sure everything is compressed, head back to station, and then look at all the numbers and everything. We have kind of gotten, our value is probably a little bit lower than you would normally see if you were actually going after like Veldspar or Plague, but we've kind of gotten a lot of the Veldspar in the vicinity of where we're at, so we've been getting a lot of Scordite. Pyro's value is actually pretty decent, but Scordite value is the lowest, so still hitting about 20 million with quite a bit of Scordite is not bad. Not bad at all. I think probably the next session I do will probably venture out a little bit further, since we don't have any Plague at all in our kind of collection. We'll probably be focusing primarily on Plague in the next episode to kind of bring its numbers up relative to Pyro, Scordite, Veldspar for what we've got on hand. That's about kind of what I'm thinking. Got about 9-10 minutes of the industrial core left, but I know this video is this episode's longer than normal, but obviously like that's the kind of goal that I'm going for moving forward. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed it and everything, and also just give me some suggestions too. It's like the next episode when we go out for Plague, we don't necessarily have to get the Porpoise out. We can go Mackinac, we can go Retriever or Procurer or whatever. So I'll go out and mine at anything really. It would be actually kind of interesting to do like a hour-long session in a Mackinac going after Plague. Obviously, we won't be doing a lot of compression and stuff like that. We might have to get creative with getting that back to where we're kind of stockpiling stuff. Let's see. About 1500. That's about 9 minutes. So I'm trying to do an absolute, like, I'm trying to get at least an absolute hour. If I use all of this heavy water, then it might not be recorded footage, but you'll know that it's been about an hour and a half of mining and everything. That's kind of why I kind of did that calculation to let you guys know how many minutes you can actually siege for with what we can bring out in heavy water. So if I use all of this, then you can safely assume that I've done about 190
The asteroid
ish minutes. Let's get another solid pyro rock popping. Slow targeting. That's the only thing about this, is just not having the extra targets to kind of have on backup. A little bit of downtime in terms of getting the next target up. I might actually, I'm starting to kind of like that idea now that I'm thinking about it, about the Mackinac, taking the Mackinac out and just strictly going after Plague next time. We'll tank it out as best we can. All right, 1200. It's about 8 minutes. 8 minutes of siege left. All right, we are on the last. We have one more cycle after this one, but we're getting pretty damn close here. Make sure we keep all this stuff compressed. 222 units of heavy water left, so we'll get one more cycle after this. Kind of got all these guys on the same pyro rock, just so they're roughly in the same distance from me for when we get ready to kind of bring everybody in. I have it offset to the point where, like, when siege, the core ends, we'll still have a little bit of compressor left, because the siege can be off while your compressor is still running. It won't actually turn off until its cycle is complete. So even after we run out of heavy water, the compressor is at a point in its cycle that
The asteroid is depleted.
we'll still be able to. We'll have enough time to. We'll have enough time to actually get that ore compressed out. Let's go look at what we've got. 19.8. 19,800,000. And pit heavy water is done. We got 52 units left. So they should get another cycle in the hold before we run out. Hopefully we can go ahead and turn off the industrial core and get ready to get out of town here. pretty close to my estimate for 20 million. I think if we were kind of more conscious about Beltspar and stuff, then we would have been well above it. But for the purpose of this, we're kind of mining everything. We weren't really being too picky about any of it. All right, so we won't be able to compress this. it did turn off, which is fine. Got everybody loaded in. So 19.8, and then about 83,000 here. So close enough. All the drones are in. Go ahead and get out of Dodge here. But so 19.8, and then we use essentially, if you go for the sell value, then yeah, I mean, it's, 5 million in heavy water, but really 4.8 because I usually go off of buy value for that stuff. So anywhere between 15 to 16 million is what we're kind of coming away with. But just like everything else in Eve, until we dock with the ore, we don't own it. So we'll go ahead and get all this into Cheetah, hopefully, and then it'll be officially ours until we try to transport it and hopefully not get blown up. But yeah, give me some suggestions what you guys want to see. This is kind of like been going to be my main focus for a little bit, just kind of stockpiling ore and everything. And if you want to see Mackinac, if you want to see Retriever, if you want to see Venture, if you want to see, I mean, we'll probably end up actually getting an Orca, most likely, because it's just tankier.
Docking permission requested. Docking request accepted.
Being tankier, we'll be able to, not have to worry about just run-of-the-mill, random dudes. Alright, let's get all this stuff unloaded. And then we're going to go ahead, before I don't want to go out and forget, so we're going to go ahead and put all of our heavy water, go fill it all the way back up. And we're going to leave this in here for the next session for compression. So, oh look, we get one Hornet, or 2 Hornets. Sweet. So cool. But anyway, like I said, thank you for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace out.